Have you ever felt like you truly understood yourself, your body, your desires, your identity, and then suddenly, something or someone comes along and flips everything upside down? That's exactly what happened to me. For 38 years, I thought I knew my body inside out. Every inch of it, every feeling it could hold, every limit it had, but life has a funny way of surprising us when we least expect it. One person walked into my world and shattered everything I believed about myself. And no, this isn't just another story, it's a journey of self-discovery, love, and transformation that might just make you rethink your own life. Before she came into the picture, my days were predictable. Wake up, go to work, come home, repeat. My relationships, safe, comfortable, but somehow, incomplete. Deep down, there was always this nagging sense that something was missing. I couldn't put my finger on it. Maybe you've felt it too, a quiet dissatisfaction, a whisper in the back of your mind telling you there's more to explore, more to feel, more to be. But I ignored it. After all, how much can one person really change after 38 years? Then she walked into my life. And let me tell you, nothing was ever the same again. In this video, you'll hear a story that will challenge everything you think you know about love, desire, and self-acceptance. You'll learn how one person can completely transform the way you see yourself, and why embracing the unknown can lead to the most beautiful discoveries. By the end of this video, you might find yourself asking, what am I not seeing in my own life? What parts of myself have I been too afraid to explore? So if you're ready to dive deep into a tale of passion, vulnerability, and growth, one that blends raw honesty with moments of pure inspiration, stick around. Trust me, you won't want to miss where this story goes. Welcome to our channel, where we share stories that spark curiosity, ignite conversations, and inspire change. If this sounds like something you'd enjoy, hit that subscribe button and join our community of thinkers, dreamers, and explorers. Together, let's uncover the truths we're often too scared to face. It's strange how life introduces you to people when you least expect it. You're just going about your day, minding your own business, and then, boom. Someone walks in, and suddenly the world feels a little brighter, a little sharper, like someone turned up the volume on everything around you. That's what happened to me. I met her at work, or rather, she was transferred to my department. It was one of those mundane Monday mornings where the coffee tasted bitter, the emails piled up faster than I could answer them, and time seemed to drag endlessly. Then she walked into the office, carrying this oversized tote bag that looked like it had seen better days but somehow suited her perfectly. Her energy filled the room before she even said hello. She wasn't loud or over the top. Instead, there was this quiet confidence about her, as if she carried an invisible force field of calmness wherever she went. She introduced herself with a smile, warm, genuine, and disarming, and immediately struck up a conversation about plants. Yes, plants. Apparently, she'd noticed the tiny succulent sitting on my desk, a sad attempt at adding some life to the sterile workspace, and complimented it. You have good taste, she said, tilting her head slightly as though studying the plant from every angle. And just like that, we were talking about soil types, sunlight preferences, and whether cacti are secretly plotting against us. It sounds ridiculous now, but that moment stuck with me because it felt so effortless. Like breathing. Her name was Claire. From the get-go, she was different from anyone else I'd ever met. There was something magnetic about her, a mix of curiosity and kindness that drew people in without her even trying. She had this habit of tucking her hair behind her ear whenever she laughed, which happened often. Her laugh wasn't polite or restrained, it was full-bodied, almost musical, the kind that made you want to laugh along even if you didn't know why. She dressed simply but with intention, loose sweaters paired with tailored pants, always accessorized with quirky earrings shaped like animals or planets. She once told me they reminded her to stay grounded while dreaming big. At the time, I thought it was just a clever line, but later, I realized how much truth there was in it. What struck me most, though, was her ability to listen, not just hear, but truly listen. When she asked how your weekend went, she actually cared about the answer. If you mentioned being stressed, she'd offer words of encouragement without making it sound rehearsed or insincere. She radiated this quiet strength, as if she'd been through storms before and come out stronger for it. But there was also a playfulness to her, a spark that lit up her eyes when she teased someone or cracked a joke. She wasn't afraid to be vulnerable either, which was rare in our fast-paced, surface-level environment. Once, during lunch, she casually admitted she cried during a dog food commercial because it reminded her of her childhood pet. Most people would have brushed it off as embarrassing, but not Claire. She owned it, laughing at herself even as tears welled up in her eyes. The more I got to know her, the more intrigued I became. She challenged me in ways I hadn't anticipated. For instance, she loved debating random topics, like whether pineapple belongs on pizza or if aliens exist, and she never backed down from defending her stance. Yet, despite her passion, she never came across as argumentative. Instead, she made you think, question your assumptions, and see things from a new perspective. She had this way of turning ordinary moments into something extraordinary. A trip to the break room became an impromptu brainstorming session. A walk to the parking lot turned into a deep conversation about dreams and regrets. With Claire, nothing felt small or insignificant. At first, I couldn't quite figure her out. Was she this open with everyone, or was there something special about the way she treated me? Part of me wondered if I was reading too much into things, if maybe I was projecting my own insecurities onto her. After all, I'd spent years convincing myself I understood who I was, what I wanted, and how the world worked. But Claire, she disrupted that. She made me question everything. Why did I feel so comfortable around her? Why did her presence make my chest tighten in a way that wasn't entirely unpleasant? Why did I find myself looking forward to seeing her each day? Looking back, I can pinpoint the exact moment I started noticing these feelings. We were working late one evening, the office eerily quiet except for the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Claire leaned over my desk to show me something on my computer screen, her arm brushing against mine. It was such a fleeting touch, barely noticeable, but it sent a jolt through me that I couldn't ignore. I remember pretending to focus on the document in front of me, hoping she wouldn't notice the flush creeping up my neck. Later, when she suggested grabbing dinner since we were both starving, I hesitated for reasons I couldn't explain. Something about her felt dangerous, not in a bad way, but in a way that made me realize I was standing on the edge of something unfamiliar. I didn't realize it then, but our friendship would soon turn into something neither of us expected. There's a certain magic in the beginning stages of friendship, a kind of effortless rhythm where two people click, almost as if they've known each other for years. That's how it felt with Claire. Our bond grew quickly, naturally, like vines wrapping around a trellis. We started spending more time together outside of work, grabbing coffee after hours, exploring little-known corners of the city on weekends, or simply sitting side by side in comfortable silence while binge-watching documentaries neither of us fully paid attention to. At first glance, it seemed like any other close friendship. But beneath the surface, there were moments that felt different. Unusual, special in ways I couldn't quite articulate. Take our late-night conversations, for example. They became a ritual of sorts, though we never planned them. It usually started innocently enough. One of us would send a text about something random, an article we'd read, a song stuck in our head, or even just a funny typo we'd made earlier in the day. Before long, those texts would spiral into hours-long exchanges, diving deep into topics most people shy away from. Dreams we hadn't dared to voice aloud. Fears we carried but rarely admitted. Hopes so fragile they felt like glass. With Claire, I found myself saying things I didn't know I needed to say. She listened without judgment, responding not with platitudes but with raw honesty. "You deserve better," she once told me when I confessed feeling stuck in a rut. "Don't settle for less than you're worth." The words hit me like a punch to the gut, not because they were harsh, but because they rang true. And then there were the small gestures, the ones that lingered in my mind long after they happened. Like the time she showed up at my door unannounced with a thermos of homemade soup when I was sick. Or the way she always remembered the tiniest details about me, the fact that I liked my tea extra strong, that I hated wearing socks indoors, that I secretly loved cheesy rom-coms despite pretending otherwise. Once, during one of our weekend adventures, she surprised me with a handmade bookmark shaped like a fox, my favorite animal. "Thought you could use this for all those books you keep talking about," she said with a shrug, as if it were no big deal. But it was a big deal, to me, at least. No one had ever gone out of their way to create something just for me before. It made me feel seen in a way I wasn't used to. But it wasn't just the grand gestures or the heartfelt talks that stood out, it was the everyday moments, too. The way she'd nudge me playfully when I zoned out during conversations, calling me back to reality with a grin. The way her laughter echoed through the room, warm and infectious, making everything seem lighter. Even mundane tasks felt magical with her around. Grocery shopping turned into a scavenger hunt where we challenged each other to find the weirdest item in the store. Walking home under the glow of streetlights became a shared ritual, our footsteps sinking without effort. These moments weren't extraordinary on paper, but they felt monumental in the moment because they came wrapped in a connection I couldn't explain. The thing is, I couldn't shake the feeling that this friendship was unlike any I'd experienced before. With others, I'd always kept parts of myself tucked away, hidden behind walls built over years of self-protection. But with Claire, those walls crumbled faster than I could rebuild them. She saw pieces of me I didn't even realize were visible, and instead of turning away, she leaned in closer. And yet, it scared me. Because the closer we got, the harder it became to ignore the flutter in my chest whenever she smiled at me. The way my pulse quickened when our hands accidentally brushed. The ache in my stomach when she mentioned going out with someone else. Was I reading too much into this? Was I projecting my own longing onto her? I wrestled with these questions constantly, trying to convince myself it was nothing more than admiration or gratitude. After all, isn't it normal to feel deeply connected to someone who makes you laugh, listens without judgment, and sees you for who you really are? Of course it is. Except, it didn't feel normal. Not entirely. There was something electric between us, something that defied logic and reason. But every time I tried to confront those feelings, I pushed them aside, terrified of what they might mean, if they meant anything at all. One particular memory stands out, crystallized in my mind like a photograph I can't stop staring at. We were sitting on the floor of her apartment one evening, surrounded by takeout containers and half-empty wine glasses. The conversation had drifted to relationships, past loves, heartbreaks, what we wanted moving forward. When it was my turn to share, I stumbled over my words, unsure of how much to reveal. Claire watched me intently, her gaze steady and unwavering. "You don't have to say anything you're not ready to," she said softly. Her kindness should have put me at ease, but instead, it only heightened the tension swirling inside me. What did I want to say? What could I say? I settled for a vague response about wanting something real, something meaningful. Something that made me feel alive. She nodded thoughtfully, then said something that stopped me cold. Sometimes, the things we want most are closer than we think. We just have to be brave enough to reach for them. Her voice was calm, measured, but there was an undertone I couldn't quite place, as if she were speaking directly to me, about us. Or maybe I was imagining it. Maybe I was seeing patterns where none existed. Either way, her words hung in the air between us, heavy with possibility. That night, as I lay in bed replaying the conversation in my mind, I realized something unsettling. Claire wasn't just changing how I saw the world. She was changing how I saw myself. All the certainties I'd clung to for 38 years, the boundaries I'd set, the labels I'd accepted, were starting to blur. Who was I, really? And what did I want? For the first time in my life, I didn't have clear answers. One day, she said something that made me question everything I thought I knew, not just about her, but about myself. It's strange how moments of clarity often arrive uninvited, crashing into your life like a storm you didn't see coming. For me, that moment happened on an ordinary Tuesday evening, a night so unremarkable in its setup that it almost feels cruel now to think about how much it changed everything. Claire and I had been spending more time together lately, our friendship evolving into something deeper without either of us naming it. Or maybe I was the only one who couldn't name it yet. We were at her apartment again, this time for what she called a movie marathon. She'd picked out 3 films, each wildly different from the others, and insisted we watch them back to back with no breaks. Knowing Claire, I should have expected nothing less than chaos wrapped in charm. We sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by blankets and snacks, the soft glow of fairy lights casting shadows across the room. The first movie played in the background, but neither of us paid much attention. Instead, we talked about everything and nothing, as usual. Somewhere between debating whether time travel could ever be ethical and laughing over embarrassing childhood stories, I noticed something shift. Not in the air, not in the room, but inside me. Claire leaned forward to grab another handful of popcorn, her sweater slipping off one shoulder. It was such a small, insignificant movement, yet it sent a jolt through my body that left me breathless. My heart pounded in my chest, loud enough that I worried she might hear it. I froze, staring at her profile, the curve of her jaw, the way her hair fell loosely around her face, the faint smile playing on her lips as she teased me about my terrible predictions for the plot twist. And then it hit me, I wanted her. Not just as a friend. Not just as someone to laugh with or confide in. I wanted her in a way that felt raw and primal, a desire so intense it scared me. It wasn't just physical attraction, It ran deeper than that, rooting itself in every part of me until I couldn't tell where I ended and she began. The realization slammed into me like a freight train, leaving me dizzy and disoriented. How had I missed this? How had I convinced myself for so long that what I felt for her was purely platonic? At first, I tried to push the thought away. Surely, I was mistaken. This kind of thing didn't happen, not to people like me. I'd spent 38 years living under the assumption that I understood who I was, who I loved, and how love worked. Growing up, I'd absorbed all the messages society drilled into us about relationships. Boys chase girls, girls wait for boys, and anything outside that script is wrong or confusing. Even as an adult, those ideas lingered in the corners of my mind, shaping my expectations without me realizing it. Love was supposed to follow rules, wasn't it? Safe, predictable rules. But here I was, sitting on Claire's floor, staring at her like she held the answers to questions I hadn't even dared to ask. Denial came next, wrapping itself tightly around me like a shield. This is ridiculous, I told myself silently. You're imagining things. You're projecting. You're tired. But no matter how many excuses I made, the truth refused to budge. Every glance, every touch, every word out of her mouth seemed to confirm what I'd been too afraid to admit. I was falling for her. Hard. And yet, fear crept in alongside the excitement. Fear of rejection, of judgment, of losing the one person who truly understood me. What if she didn't feel the same way? Worse still, what if she did, and it ruined everything? The thought of risking our friendship felt unbearable. Claire had become my anchor, the person I turned to when the world felt overwhelming. Losing her would leave a void I wasn't sure I could fill. But denial and fear weren't the only emotions swirling inside me. Beneath the panic and uncertainty, there was also exhilaration, a spark of possibility I hadn't felt in years. For the first time, I allowed myself to imagine what it might be like to let go of the labels I'd clung to for so long. To embrace the unknown instead of running from it. What would it mean to love Claire, not cautiously or halfway, but fully, completely? Could I even do that? Did I have the courage? As the night wore on, I found myself retreating inward, caught between wanting to say something and knowing I couldn't, not yet. Claire must have sensed my distraction because she eventually paused the movie and turned to look at me. Hey, she said gently, her voice cutting through the noise in my head. You okay? I forced a smile, nodding quickly. Yeah, just thinking. About what? She asked, tilting her head slightly, her eyes searching mine. Everything, nothing, her, me, us. I don't know, I admitted finally, my voice barely above a whisper. And it was true, I didn't know. Not really. All I knew was that I couldn't keep pretending I wasn't feeling what I was feeling.